I think an inherent problem is that people try to out clever Google. They go right towards the fancy, amazing technique that they think will bring them results, when really there's just it's maybe a high risk, high reward kind of play.
And I think the big one, obviously, AI powered search. So,
What should I worry about? What should I care about in 2025? Well, hello everybody. Welcome to our masterclass for SEO in 2025. What we're going to have here today is a session where we're going to try and share trends, strategies, and insights of what companies need to do in order to succeed in SEO in 2025. We have here with us today Kyle Roof. He's the co-founder of Page Optimizer Pro and High Voltage SEO. He's well known in the SEO industry. Speaks at lots of conferences, and yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here with us this morning, Kyle.
Well, thanks so much. Happy to be here.
We also have Stephan Marais, our wonderful head of SEO here at Somebody Digital. Stephan has many years of experience in SEO, managing B2B and B2C campaigns from e-commerce to lead generation. It's always wonderful to share the stage with Stephan. And hi, Stephan.
great. Hi. Thank you.
And myself, I'm the Director of Digital Operations here at Somebody Digital. I will be leading or conducting this masterclass today. Let's get straight into it. So as I said earlier, by the end of this masterclass, you should have a clear notion of the things you should be paying attention to in 2025. You should be able to validate all your efforts and what you have been planning in terms of SEO for 2025 and see if you're missing anything. You might find two things at the end of this masterclass. You're following the right path, you're doing everything correctly, or you might gain some knowledge on a few things that you need to pay attention to. And with that in mind, I think it's fair for us to start asking the question, what's changing in SEO in 2025? Is there anything that people should be aware of? Is it more of the same? Should we just follow best practices? Is there a silver bullet that we should be pursuing that is going to help you change your SEO or organic results drastically? Kyle, what are your thoughts? What's changing in 2025?
I think it's important to understand that the last several years of updates have targeted a specific type of site, and in particular, Google targeting affiliate sites, sites that give content and then redirect people somewhere else to make a sale. Google's been openly hostile to them, and then at the end of 2023 and through 2024, there have been some major updates that have specifically targeted those sites. And that group is a very large group and a very vocal group, and they have been championing the idea that everything has changed. Well, everything has changed for them, and that Google specifically targeted them, and I think has finally had enough, and I think quite manually went after those types of sites. If you're not one of those sites, though, not a lot has changed. The core foundations of how ranking works, how the algorithm works, those are all remained relatively the same. And I can tell you that I've been running tests on Google's algorithm since 2015. And in the last year, I've rerun a lot of those original tests that helped me kind of get some foundational knowledge as to how the algorithm works. And all those tests still work the same. So the algorithm itself really hasn't changed much, and I don't think it can change that much. But what really has changed is the type of site that Google clearly doesn't like, and it's that affiliate type of page. And something that I've been working on this year is kind of identifying what it is about that site that Google hates. And I think the big thing, and I got this from an SEO friend of mine named Kazra Dash, is that these sites are doorway pages. A doorway page is actually on the no-no list if you read the Google guidelines. And it's the idea that you rank for something, for a random keyword. Somebody reads the content, they like it, but then in order for them to convert, in order for them to do something, they get funneled to another site. That's a doorway page. So you bring them in and then funnel them out. And that's what Google is trying to remove from the SERPs. And so if you have if your site is anywhere near that, that's when you want to be concerned, because what has changed is Google's really taken a hard stance against that type of site. If that isn't you, if you are a standard business, if you're a local business, if you are a SaaS of some sort or something like that, all those things you're probably fine. You probably don't even know there have been any updates. You probably
Correct.
haven't been touched at all, and that's just because the algorithm itself didn't change. But what has changed, and I think what will continue to change, is just the type of site that Google wants to see in the SERPs. And I think it's important just to make sure that you do everything you can so that a bot doesn't think that you're one of those sites. Being
Yeah.
transparent, being open, those are the keys to continue ranking as we have. Is just make sure that you aren't perceived as a site that Google doesn't like. But otherwise, I think the ranking part of it, the organic part, has remained the same and will remain the same in 2025.
Yeah, that's a great point. And by the way, none of the sites that we are familiar with, meaning we manage or people that we know that do proper solid SEO, none of those websites got penalized or lost ranking position. There was a small adjustment that always happens when there are
Yeah.
algorithm updates. It takes a few weeks for the algorithm to adjust. So you might see fluctuations, but the end result after the dust settle, these websites usually stabilize or start growing again. I presume it's the same with you, right? You haven't seen any website suffer major penalties or suffer major drops.
That's correct. Sites that aren't those types of sites have been fine. One of the frustrating things, though, is that some sites that are by nature affiliate sites, but aren't doing anything wrong and have done everything correct, still got
It's a
hit.
very important distinction, right?
They
Yeah,
even though they are clearly within the guidelines, they aren't doorway pages. They aren't funneling people
yeah,
away. But it appears that they do that. They were hit, and that's what's extremely frustrating because they've done everything correctly and just having the appearance of being a site that Google doesn't like, they were hit. And so that's where people, I think, a lot of the fear and the uncertainty and doubt in the industry has come in because people can say like, I did everything right. I have done things within the guidelines, but my site was still hit. And really, you have to look at what type of site is it. What will a bot perceive that site to be? And if it's perceived to be a doorway page, a site that is funneling people somewhere else, those are the sites that got hit, even if they really weren't. And
yeah,
so I don't really work with any affiliate sites currently, and so I haven't seen it. But you're correct. Every time there's an update, there's always that little like murmur in the
yeah,
rankings. You might see a little down, you might see a little up, but overall, you're going to be fine. There might be a percentage adjustment here or there,
yeah.
but not the fall off the cliff that these sites have
Never.
experienced.
As long as you follow best practices
That's
and you
right.
follow all the rules, you will be okay. And that's a quite important message because when we had that famous AI update, people were calling it AI content update, which really wasn't about that. It was about quality of content, preventing spammy content. And this is when a lot of affiliate websites got hit, and some false positives, but because they're part of the same niche and industry. Where what I suspect is going to end up happening is that Google will identify the legit websites and will fix the algorithm to be able to allow these websites to continue to grow and thrive. But let's talk a little bit about that algorithm update. We had a lot of explanation to give to our clients and to the companies we provide consultancy for because everybody freaked out. We are using AI to produce our content. Are we going to be penalized? And we use AI to be efficient in the way we do things, but there's always a human touch. There's always a human element, and quality is important. We have a plan. We have a content plan that we try and follow best practices as much as we possibly can. So, Stefan, I'd like to get your opinion because we had a lot of sessions, I remember, educating our clients about that update in particular. What was that core update that people were calling the AI penalty update or something within those lines? But it wasn't about that. It was about quality content. Could you expand a little bit more on that, please?
Yes, it was. I can't remember exactly which update it was, but I think it was the August 24 update
I think
that
it was the August one.
caused
Yeah,
that significant change, and and people were jumping on the AI bandwagon because it was new, and generative search was new, and ChatGPT was all over the place. So people were definitely scared and imagined that AI content generation is what is going to get you penalized here. But it is not about that. Google has also changed their documentation around utilizing AI for content generation. It's not about the use of content or use of AI for content generation, but rather what that content, what the end result is. Is it something that is unique and valuable and informative? If that is what the end result is, and you've utilized AI on top of manual research, manual writing, then that content is absolutely fine. So the use of AI in specifically content generation as a part of your process is absolutely something that more marketers should be doing. Utilize AI to do that manual research work that you would have done and taken you 2 to 3 hours to find your competitors and the topics and the structure of your content that you want to that you want to put out. Use AI to gather that information for you to make that process easier and faster, to give you a better overview quicker, so that you can start with the generation of that content. Make sure that you provide value, make sure that you provide unique perspectives, real cases, real experience in that content. But utilize AI. There's nothing wrong with it. It is a tool that Google is utilizing, has been utilizing in search in most of what they do for ages already. Now with search generative experience, it is coming to the fore. It's visually being shown as an AI overview, but it's always been there. It's just evolving in a way. So if Google is using AI, why wouldn't we be using AI to generate something that is of value? And I think if we just quickly touch base again on the evolution of search and algorithms, and I agree with what both of you said and what Carl also mentioned in terms of it's not a change in the algorithms. And even though we've had the big leak in terms of Google's documentation of what are the elements that influence ranking, things like confirming that clicks do actually inform rankings as well. But all of that has stayed the same. It is likely evolving to better serve changing user behavior. So the search layouts and what you see in the search, the types of the results that you get, they're constantly changing. They have always been changing, but it's not as a result of changing algorithm. It's it's more a case of Google trying to provide the user with information in the best possible format to answer their query and intent. So it's not the algorithm that's changing, it's just the layout, the way that things are being displayed to you. And generative AI,
Adapting to user behavior, right?
that's
Adapting
that's
to the way that users are searching things online these days. Yeah.
yes, and users are getting smarter and smarter and smarter. A quick case in point would be users uh, understanding the near me search better and better, or localized searches and understanding that they will get a better result if they search for dentist near me instead of just dentist, right? Or dentist in my area. And so they are more and more uh, much smarter in the way that they search as well. So that is what I think is happening in terms of search results specifically.
Okay. With that in mind, I want to touch on a couple of things. Okay. What people need to know, what they have to do in terms of SEO for 2025, and that's a very, very important question. And what are the trends? Okay. By the way, it was the March update that we were talking about a few moments ago. But back to the topic here. Often, when we start working with new companies or even existing companies, they're always trying to find what should I do in terms of SEO to really beat my competitors. Is there anything? Is there an update? Is there a piece of content that I should publish? What should I do just to beat them? And then they're looking for that silver bullet. They're looking for that magic button that will make things go crazy and improve overnight. Okay, SEO is not like that. Very, very important to mention that. They are so concerned with finding that magic button that will help them grow exponentially in SEO that they forget the basics. So when we do audits for those websites, we often find that they're not even doing the basics. And I think that's a very, very, very important case here. What should I worry about? What should I care about in 2025 to thrive with my SEO, to ensure that my SEO is going the right direction? I think one fundamental point is do the basics, ensure that all your technicals have been implemented, ensure you have a content plan, ensure that you are building all schema markups correctly, ensure that you have images, ensure that you have video, ensure that you prepare your website for voice searches as well, which is also a trend. I think video and voice are two really, really good trends that we're going to touch in a few moments as well. But if you do everything right, if you follow all best practices, chances are you're going to start beating your competitors, because very few companies actually do SEO right. We have a case with an e-commerce, a client of ours. We have recently started working with them. I think we've been doing SEO for 3-4 months, and we did all the technicals first, schema markups. It's an e-commerce, so there's a lot of things you can do on the product and category pages. And we presented a couple of days ago the results. After 2 months implementing things, we can already see really interesting insights. They are already appearing on AI search results. They are already appearing on rich snippets results, things that they didn't see before. Keywords jumping straight from position 60 to page 1 after a few weeks only, because they're now following the best practices. Is that it? No magic trick at all. Just follow the best practices, because to Stephan's point and to your point, Kyle, very little has changed in the way you should be doing SEO. You just need to do it right. You just need to follow best practices and follow Google's guidelines, and then you will succeed. Is that it? Is there anything else that they should try and do, or is that the magic button? Kyle?
I think an inherent problem is that people try to out clever Google, and
Yes.
they try to out clever their competitors. But I was pondering that the other day, and I think one of the inherent problems with SEOs is that they're under constant pressure to perform, and I think they're under constant pressure to look clever, and it's just not very sexy to say we updated all the page titles, like or we did some interlinking between some of our blog posts to each other and to the target page. um, that just doesn't seem like you've done anything. And I think as a result, a lot of SEOs try to get to the thing that does look sexy, maybe in some pressure to keep their jobs. But as a result, they will often bypass, skip, or miss entirely kind of just those basic things. Uh, I also think it's an important point that SEO is a game of probability. You're not going to be right 100% of the time, but you need to do things that will give you the best chance for success, that give you the highest probability for success. And that starts with doing those foundational things, those basic things. And that's often why you can get a lot of success by doing them, is because a lot of people skip that. They go right towards the fancy, amazing technique that they think will bring them results, when really there's just it's maybe a high risk, high reward kind of a play. But if you just kind of maintain those standards of this is what solid SEO is, this is what good SEO is, overall in the long run, you'll end up with a much better success. It just isn't as fun to say in a report as to what you went and did. But ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what will bring the best results.
Yeah, and I
How
think
many
that
times have you heard, we could have done this ourselves? You guys did nothing special. We could have done this
Yeah.
ourselves. And then it's like, okay, why didn't you then?
Yeah, exactly right. We famously, when I was first figuring out interlinking, it was like 2015, 2016. We did that. We went through this site where they weren't on page 1 for anything. And we simply redid all of their internal linking into
Mm.
clusterings. And of their top 10 terms, 8 hit page 1 in about 2 months. And then they fired us because because we didn't do anything. I was like, we went through and we
Really
found,
sad.
we did the clustering. We found the things that were semantically related. We implemented this internal linking structure, and we literally got fired for dragging them to page 1 for 8 of their
oh,
10 top terms because we didn't do anything. Because again, it's not sexy.
Yeah,
yeah,
we're familiar with that. Agency life, right?
Yeah.
Stefan, anything to add to that?
yes, I think in terms of the technicals, so there are super basic technical best practice that's on-page best practice that we will always need to carry out. But I think something that is being neglected a lot, and I think if we touch on core web vitals here, it is quite an interesting case that development works so isolated most of the time. Development works so isolated from the marketing departments, such as SEO, and you don't think about that. No developer would think, oh, why would I need to speak to an SEO guy to help me during the development of this site? And I think that is where there is a big misunderstanding from developers and how developers and technical SEO should be working together at the very beginning of the build of a site. There are so many elements that us as SEOs would go and do a technical audit of a site, and we say, well, your core web vitals on desktop and mobile look horrible. Your images are enormous. Your first contentful paint or largest contentful paint is gigantic, and it's all because of your images, the types of images that you're using, the size of your images, and not defining dimensions for your imagery and having placeholders and all those elements, types of elements in place. But that is what core web vitals urge you to do. So each time we go and we look at core web vitals analysis for a website, and we think to ourselves, if only there was a developer in place at the beginning of the build of this that spoke to an SEO, that worked on core web vitals elements from the very beginning, making sure that you implement the correct technical and development elements from the very get-go. And I think that's probably the most effective way of making sure that you have a strong core web vitals score and performance in terms of speed and usability. So I think that's something that is really neglected, making sure that SEO is part of your process from the very, very beginning. And as your site grows and extends, make sure that SEO, crawlability, the crawlability guys are there to help ensure that what you build is
Yeah.
effective for the user and for crawlers as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember an interesting case we had last year. One of our clients was re-platforming their website. They were changing, updating the CMS system, and the director of marketing asked us, at which point should we get SEO involved? Shall we go live with the website and then you guys do your analysis? I'm like, no, no, no. From the very beginning, development. We need to start speaking with your developers before you even have a new design. That's when SEO should be brought in. Like, why? There's not going to be any content. Well, content is only one factor. Technicals are very, very important. So all the things they didn't have on the old website, schema markups, breadcrumbs, etc., we were able to implement from the get-go. Not only they didn't see a drop in performance after they migrated to a new platform, which often happens because you have to pay attention to so many things when you migrate a website, that after a few weeks, because they now have all these technicals that are important, and core web vitals were improved significantly, they started to grow exponentially as well. So never neglect the technicals, I think is the main message here. Okay, I would like to move to the trends now. We spoke about user behavior earlier, and we said that Google is trying to adapt the algorithm to adjust to user behavior. What should companies be thinking about in terms of types of content that they need to either start producing or produce more or pay more attention to? What's the change in user behavior that will cause companies and websites to change a little bit the way that they produce content? Do we see any interesting trends, trending growth in voice search, email search, videos? What are your thoughts? And this time I would like to start with Stephan, and then Kyle, I would like to get your opinion afterwards.
Okay, cool, great. So in terms of search trends, I think the first thing, I wouldn't call it a rise, but a rise of multimodal, but multimodal search is more and more being used by more users. People don't just go to Google and search using a string of text or a query. They use video searches and image searches and multiple platforms as well, and using camera image search, as I mentioned, using your camera on Google to search for a specific product or image. That is not something that is changing as a result of algorithms, but as a result, again, of user behavior. Users becoming more savvy, understanding that they have options to find exactly what it is that they're looking for. And I think the big one, obviously, AI-powered search. So AI-powered search that has been something that has been used in the background in many, many spaces and places. Now, with generative AI, Google is more and more integrating AI overviews and AI buttons into search results itself in order to surface more and more relevant content. And it's interesting to note that thus far in AI overviews, it seems that a lot of more niche type websites are being referenced for additional information. So Google is trying to find niche, and there's also in many of those cases, those references will showcase real world experience and expertise. So Google is finding that in terms of authorship, who are these people that is generating this content? Are they verifiable authors, and etc. as well? So AI powered search also speaks to what we also like to call micro moments. AI powered search does a really good job of providing answers for quick tidbits. I want to know a specific fact in a specific moment, or I need to know how to do something in a specific moment. So, making sure that you identify those micro moments in your industry and incorporate them into your content. You can think about it as an FAQ type section, a quick answer, a question with a concise answer, or a factoid being highlighted that can be included in generative search as well. So, very important there. And then semantic search, we've seen that. That also plays into voice search as well. So, more and more people are using long-term phrases and sentences to search for information. With this advent of AI usage, people are learning more and more to search in a way that you speak. And that plays into the AI and to the search, into voice search as well. So making sure that you optimize and create content in that vein also allows for that content to be surfaced in these additional features that Google are incorporating into search.
Very interesting. And I think one of the main questions we're probably going to get after this explanation is how can I prepare for that? And then we go back to the best practices. We go back to following the rules. We go back to having solid and strong technicals on your website. If you have FAQs, you need to have schema markups and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Kyle, any other thoughts? Is there anything else in terms of user behavior that we should be paying attention to and do more of or be stronger at? What are your thoughts?
Well, one thing that I'm always impressed by is how much people don't actually search for their own terms and look at the SERPs. Google shows you what opportunities you have, and
Yeah.
they do very little bit keyword to keyword, niche to niche. One keyword only might have a people also ask type section. So, do you have a section on your page that can answer those types of questions? But you might have access to an image carousel. You might have access to a video carousel. Do you have videos and images that will be eligible to be into those areas so that you can take advantage of those things? And like you said, that often just goes back to making sure that you've done the basics. Is your schema correct? Is your HTML correct? Do you have them positioned in positions of prominence so that Google will like them? But one thing I think you can also use to stay ahead of, especially when how maybe search trends might change or how people address your product might change, is to talk to your sales team. How are people describing your product? Because they probably aren't doing it in a technical way. They probably don't know the technical term for your product or your service, but they will describe it in a certain way. And talking to your sales team about how people ask questions about your product, your service, what you provide, would probably give you a healthy 3 months of content,
Yeah.
where you can go in and create content to satisfy the search. Because if they're asking your sales team, if this is what they're vocalizing, this is what they've also put into Google. And it gives you an opportunity to create content that directly matches user intent, that directly matches what they need. And this is how they understand, and this is how they're interacting with Google and your product, and this is something that you can then provide.
Yeah.
One other place that I would look for trends like that is signing up for every newsletter in a niche. And every newsletter always likes to make predictions about the future. And then what's a great way to do it is to start creating content for that future, whether or not it manifests, because it often does, or some version of it does, or something comes out, and then you've got pages that are already there for when the public catches up to what's
And you're
going
going to be
on
the
in search.
first, which is quite
Exactly.
important.
So it gets you way ahead. So I would do those two things to kind of stay on top of trends and how people are searching. Would be talk to the sales team, see what people are actually
Yeah,
saying, because that'll give you the now. And then you can
yeah,
sign up for industry newsletters because they always try to predict the future, and that'll give you tomorrow, which I think
yeah.
will keep you ahead of things.
And I think that's a super, super important point to make as well. So intent, search intent and searchers intent, we've heard about that, and a lot of people have heard about that. And many people think, yes, I understand what that means. And sure, I understand what it is, and creating content that satisfies search intent. And I think there's a big gap there. And keyword research and intent research, I think, should almost be combined now. We shouldn't be focusing on doing research for specific keywords with high search volumes and we go after those, right? So we try and rank for those. But we need to look at keywords, long tail terms, but also then we need to look at what is the intent of the user when they search a specific keyword. And based on that intent, what is the content that Google is delivering to satisfy that intent? What is the type of content? Is it a product or a service page that has shorter form information and addresses your key questions and answers your commercial query quite quickly? Or is it a keyword that is quite broad and the intent is to understand what this term is in more depth, which would mean you would need a long form informational article to describe this content better. And I think relating to that as well, and also how AI and is changing the landscape with personalized search results. Personalized search results, old story. We know about this. Personalized based on your user behavior, stuff that you've consumed previously, where you are in a specific journey in your search query. But personalizing the experience to the user's journey and search intent as well. So, what the user is looking for in terms of intent, make sure that they get a personalized journey, which can be done not just through paid activity, but through organic search activity as well. So, I think intent and personalizing for that intent is super important going forward.
Which brings to perhaps the main topic when it comes down to content production. We spoke about technicals, why technicals are important, and they are. There are three main pillars in SEO, right? Technical SEO, on-page SEO, which would include content, and off-page SEO, which is primarily authority building. We don't call it backlink building anymore, do we? So we call it something different these days. What about content? What's important about content? And we already mentioned the Google Core update from last year, well, for earlier this year, sorry, the March update, which is all about quality, not volume. You don't need to have 10, 15, 20 pages talking about a topic. 2, 3 pages will do, as long as the content on those pages is good, is solid, as long as it covers everything that Google wants, basically, right? And then we talk about EAT. Every time the content topic in SEO comes up, EAT becomes something super important. Stephan, could you explain a little bit more? And what do we do as an agency to ensure that our clients understand that? And what are our recommendations to our clients, what they should be doing in terms of quality content that will help them improve their organic traffic, their SEO efforts?
Sure. So If we consider Google really only wants to do what they tell us they want to do, provide the user with the most applicable result to their search query, right? That's what they aim to do. They want to give you the most applicable result based on what it is that you're looking for. And what Google is doing more and more, there seems to be a much more significant focus on, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, authorship, right? Who is it that is creating this content? And are they a verifiable expert in this field? Do they have authority and expertise? And can we therefore trust the content that they are putting out? And when we speak to clients about this expertise, experience, authority, and trust, those core elements that need to be present in your content, I usually try to use the example because it's difficult for clients to understand. Okay, I get the concept, but what does that even look like in terms of content generation? Because the thinking is we need to create content around a specific topic. We're going to create a nice informational piece of content. And what it is a combination of content that exists elsewhere already, just rewritten in a different way. And that's not expertise or authority being shown or experience. So we say to the client a lot of the time, think about every individual in your organization, whether they are in sales or in management somehow, somewhere. Every single one of them have some sort of experience and expertise to contribute in the form of content in some way or form to your website. They have the real world experience that can be pulled on, quoted within a specific piece of content that's being created, and mentions this specific individual. So I think considering what it is that you can produce in the form of content, text, video, whatever format that may be, that truly uh, um, shows and showcases unique experience and expertise to build authority and trust of your brand and of the content that you are distributing. And it was always a case of money in your life industries, health, finance, those are the ones that should focus on this. And it's no longer true. It should be absolutely applicable to any industry that you are in if you want to be competitive and be able to really provide the most value in terms of content. So I think that's super, super important, a consideration that needs to be taken by every single business owner and their employees as well.
And that's quite important. And I'm sure if you're watching this, you're thinking, that's really hard. How can I incorporate all of that into my SEO, into our strategy? Because if we need to have unique content, if we need to focus on expertise, authority, trustworthiness, and experience, and we can do all of that, but we probably need an army of individuals to help us with that. And that is not the case. So this is when AI can play a big part, and we're going to touch a little bit more on that in a few moments. But what we're doing here today, for example, this video, which is a conversation amongst all three of us, a lot of insights, a lot of things that we can do, and some advice for companies, right? That will hopefully consume this content and start implementing some of these elements into their SEO programs. This is when AI can play a big part. You get this video as an example. You run a transcript, and then with the help of AI, you start creating articles. You start creating FAQs. You start creating short videos that will touch on specific topics. You will produce transcripts. You will then do keyword research. This is work that used to take weeks to get done. We can now get done in days. And I was recently at the MartFest in London. Kyle, have you heard of MartFest in London? It's a big, huge marketing event, not just digital marketing, marketing in general. And I was particularly interested in the talks about AI. And everybody says the same thing, and which is something already new. AI is not here to steal your job. AI is here to augment your skills, to augment your job. to help you do things faster, to help you do things better, but it's not going to replace everybody. AI doesn't create anything new in most cases. It will simply recycle what's already online. So having that unique perspective on things is quite important. And then with the help of AI, on your unique perspective of things, you can produce really good, interesting content that people will be interested in, that will add value, that will help them with something. So, what are your thoughts on that, Kyle? Because AI has been a buzzword throughout the whole year since last year, I would say, and people get scared. People think we can replace our whole department with ChatGPT now. That's really not the case, is it?
No, because it would have happened by now if it was the case. As you just mentioned, it's AI as we have it. The language models that we have are glorified article spinners. The content that they're producing by nature is duplicate content, and that's where Google has heartburn, is when you're just putting duplicate content on the web. I think a good standard to think about is, are you adding anything to the conversation? And
Yeah.
that's what they're looking for. Are you adding something new to the conversation? And so it doesn't have to be earth shattering. It doesn't have to be life changing, but it just has to have a slightly different perspective. And where you get that from, I think, as has been said, is personal experience. What is your personal experience with this thing? How have you used it? How have you interacted with it? What's something that your company does? Some IP that you have, some proprietary data that you have, a proprietary experience that your company has with this particular product or service. That's all that you need to put in there, and that's going to get you there. So the AI is going to fast forward the content creation, and it's great at coming up with content ideas, and should be used as a tool that way. But then kind of get over the hump and put in something that will actually Google will appreciate. That's where the human aspect comes into it that just doesn't exist in AI. AI has no personal experience with anything. It doesn't have the ability to express an opinion or a personal experience, because it just simply it can't have that. And that's where that human element must be a part of it, has to be part of it, and that's where you can then put in something that can make that initial content even better. What have you done with it? How have you interacted with it? The other thing, when you're talking about eat and those things, a big part of it is really answering the questions: who's responsible for this website, and who's responsible for this content. And again, that requires a human element, to identify that there is a company behind this website, and the company is running and taking responsibility for it. There are humans writing this content, and there are humans taking responsibility for what it says. And that's what you need to make clear to a bot. Fortunately, real companies don't have much of an eat issue. Those companies that Google was targeting that we talked about earlier, they often have an issue because they're trying to not show who they are. They're trying to be opaque rather than transparent in their representation online. And so, but again, those eat elements allow you to get that personalization in there, to say what you have done, who you are, where you're from, and all those sorts of things. And so while you're kind of building eat, you're also making your content better by adding in those things and getting content that can utilize AI, but then also satisfy what Google wants as well for content, and you can get content that can rank very well.
That's a great insight there. And we always say to our clients, Google is kind of already telling you what it wants for you to rank
Yeah,
well. You just need to do that analysis on who is on page one and add something to it. Do a little bit better. And you don't have to change the world. You don't have to add a lot of additional things. Just add something unique, something that will add to the conversation, to your point just a few moments ago, Kyle, right?
yeah.
And I think
The
this is
secret,
when AI, go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say, the secret's hiding in plain sight.
That's it.
Google
That's it.
shows you what it likes. The point on, should I have a category page, or should I have a product page, or should I have a long form article? You don't have to guess. You really don't. Do the search, and you can see
Just
what
go there.
Google is
Yeah.
rewarding. And then again, make it transparent as to who you are and what you're doing. Add in that personal experience, and bingo, bango, bongo.
That's it. And don't try and
you're gonna
change
rank it.
Google's wish,
No,
right? Don't
you
try and
can't
change the
teach Google
algorithm.
anything. You can't teach
No,
Google one thing. You have to go with what Google is rewarding, what Google is
correct.
expecting to see. So while we do talk about intent, it's a good thing to think about. You could also kind of fast forward that thought process a little bit just by seeing what Google thinks the intent is.
Yeah,
In Google, when Google thinks the intent is a category page, then don't try to tell Google that that it should be a long form article. Just
yeah.
it's just simply not going to work.
I think this is one of the challenges we face the most when doing SEO, especially for B2B clients, because we get, I want to rank this keyword on this page. You're like, that's not going to happen. I'm sorry.
Right.
This
Right.
keyword has informational intent, and that page you want to rank for has commercial intent. Those are two very different pages. The intent is different. You're not going to be able to adapt that page because this is not what Google wants. You need to create a separate page for this. And on this other page, you have to focus on all the terms with commercial intent. And this is when the magic happens. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. Don't try and change Google's mind. You're going to lose that battle for sure. For sure.
Exactly right.
So, and this is when tools can really help you be more efficient and do a better job. We used to have to do that analysis manually, and it would take, once again, weeks for us to analyze every single detail of the top 10, 15 results in Google. What do they have in common? What does our page or website does not have that they have? What else can we add on top of that? And this is when AI and SEO tools can play a big part. I'm a big fan of Page Optimizer Pro. There's no secret. We had another video recorded the other day where we talked about some of our successes whilst utilizing the tool. And Page Optimizer Pro, we do precisely that. It will analyze the top results in Google based on a specific keyword, and it will tell you everything that those pages have in common and what your page is missing. So this is massive. This is when AI can really help you be faster, more efficient, right? You need to include these keywords, you need to include these topics, and then you use AI again. All right, based on all of that, how can I enhance the content on this page? I need to add X word count. I need to add these topics. And then you do your intent research, what users are searching for. Speak to your sales department, speak to your product managers. Go to forums, sign up to newsletters, get questions and get information from real users. Google loves these things, right? It's from real users. If you have an e-commerce, go to social media, see what the what questions people are asking for, and incorporate that into your FAQs. This is gold. And then you use AI to help create that content. But the
Mm-hmm.
content is not going to be unique. We just said a few moments ago that AI is not going to reinvent anything. It's not going to create anything new. It's going to recycle what's already there. Then you absolutely need your copywriter to have a look at that content, do a sense check, and make it more human. Add that touch that belongs to you. Make it unique to you. So Google can see that piece of content in your website as something that comes from an expert, that has authority, that Google can trust, and your experience is there as well because it's your thing. And this should be part of your core content strategy, not just next year, but moving forward. And then you use AI and other tools to help you do things faster so you can scale operations. That's the best use of AI. Help you do your job better, help you do your job faster. Did I miss anything there? Is there anything you guys would like to add to this?
The only small thing I would add is that something that these tools can do is also keep track of your benchmarks. When there has been an
Correct.
update, and you're concerned, did I get hit by this update or should I adjust anything? It's good to know what your benchmarks are, where your terms are at, so that if the goalpost shifts, then you know what to change. Because a lot of people get very concerned as an update happens and they feel like they're in the dark and they don't know what to do. And something that these tools can do for you is help you create that content, but also benchmark where you're at. This is what the SERP, this is what Google likes right now. These are the numbers that Google likes right now. And then the clearest signal that there's been an update is when those numbers change. New things are in the SERPs. And so when you're thinking about future proofing, going through so I've got this content and, I need to make sure that it's going to be good for the future, knowing what your term counts are for your most important pieces of content is mission critical so that you can make the appropriate changes if you need to once things shift within the algorithm.
That's a great point. You just touched on something quite important, which is data in SEO. People neglect that. They think that they will do the technicals and they will have a nice content plan and will start producing content and that will be sufficient. But they forget that sometimes they need to keep track of metrics. They need to keep track of insights, user behavior. You need to user analytics. You need to cross-reference data with what you see against what your CRM system is showing you. With that in mind, is there anything different in terms of the metrics we should be tracking in SEO in 2025? Is there anything in particular that something new maybe, or it's still more of the same? We still need to keep track of all these trends, benchmarks, keyword ranking position, of course, monitor your competitors, monitor changes on the pages that you have updated. What else should they do in terms of data and metrics?
The only big thing that I think people miss is the number of keywords a page is ranking for. I always like to keep an eye on how many terms a particular page is ranking for because people get very myopic and just look at maybe the top level term and how that is performing. And depending on the term and how competitive it is and where your website is at in life, you may or may not win that term. You may or may not do very well with it, but you could do very well on a lot of secondary terms. You could be ranking for hundreds, if not thousands, of words on a page. And so I really want to make sure that's part of my data collection. Is this page growing in keywords? Is it picking up keywords? Is it picking up the right keywords? That's a really strong indicator that you've written a good page. That it doesn't really matter how well any of those things are ranking if you're getting the impressions off of them and getting the clicks. And so one of the things that shows that a page is healthy, that you've optimized correctly, that it's still relevant, is that it's picking up keywords and growing in impressions. And so
Yeah.
monitoring that keyword growth, I think, is a metric that a lot of people miss.
Yeah, and not just the directly related keywords and topics, closely related ones as well,
Right.
because it shows
That's
Google
right.
that there is a correlation between this topic, this content pillar, with that other topic as well. They're closely related, and we talk about that. And then you can have a separate page, but you can touch on these small little things, explaining the differences. What's the difference between A and B, for example?
Exactly.
If you're interested in A, maybe you need to know a little bit more about B because that's going to help you with additional insights or whatever that is, right? So I completely agree with you. Stefan, anything else that in terms of metrics, apart from the traditional ones, that perhaps we should keep an eye on?
So not really in terms of metrics, but one thing I think needs to be a consideration more and more as the SERPs layout change are zero-click searches that seem to be growing and growing and growing. Obviously, with our features and enhanced snippets, AI overviews, etc., and there'll be more. There'll be more, and the search results will change constantly over time. And a lot of those are geared towards zero-click searches, and it's been a discussion.
Could you describe that? When we talk zero click search, I'm sure there are lots of people that do not know what that means.
So
Could you give an example of a zero click search?
So effectively, it would be a featured snippet, for example, that quickly and succinctly answers a question. Who is Elvis Presley? Elvis Presley, you'll get all of the
You
information.
go to Google, who is Elvis Presley, and then you're gonna have those question and answers with no URLs. You don't click on that. You see the answer to your question straight in the search engine, right?
That's correct, and that is something that, as we mentioned earlier, that is a little micro moment as well. So answering that question in the search results, you get an image, you get an overview, you see how old he was, what happened to him, all of those things in terms of an Elvis Presley search, and you have no need to click through to the site where this information is being pulled from. And with
The big question then, Stefan, if I may interrupt you there, that doesn't come from Google. That comes from a website that have strong technicals and have
that's the
really interesting content.
that's
So
correct.
why is it important to have that then on your website if you are going to generate a search result that is not going to drive any clicks to your website?
Exactly, and a
We
lot
got
of
this
people.
question the other day. So
Yes. And a lot of people have been obviously been worrying about these results stealing traffic from my site, and it's going to negatively impact me. But it is also super important to remember that brand is more important than ever in search. That brand visibility, more and more elements coming into your search results that give more potential for your brand to be showcased in more and more spaces. That brand visibility is exceptionally important, and your brand growth and authority over time is more important than ever. And basically, maybe in terms of metrics, where we always spoke about SEO looks at non-brand organic search. I think that line is starting to change a little bit. Organic search also has, SEO also has the potential to influence branded search. Why not utilize that as well? With brand becoming more and more prominent, as you are an authoritative brand, a brand that can be trusted, a brand with exceptional content and information, that is what is important more and more so in search as well. So not only working on non-brand, but attempting and utilizing organic skills to also push brand results as well.
And if Google cares enough to grab content from your website and present it in a way that the individual can get answers to the questions without having to click anywhere, that means Google considers your website to be ticking all the boxes in terms of EAT, and you're gaining so many cookie points there. So all other keywords and all the pages of the website will definitely gain ranking position, because Google is now seeing your website as an expert website in that topic in particular. So you're not getting any clicks for that search result in particular, but you will see a massive growth in ranking position for other terms as well, and you will get those other clicks. Okay, gentlemen, I would like to start wrapping this up. We're coming to an end here, and I think the final section, which should be a quick one, I would like to summarize everything that we discussed. If anything, I would like individuals that are watching this masterclass to come to the end and make notes on things that they should action moving forward, things that they should be paying attention to ensure that they have a really solid, strong SEO, not just in 2025, but 2025 and beyond. So we spoke about technicals. They're super, super important. If you haven't done a technical assessment of your website in a long time, if it's been 3-4 months, do it again, and a thorough one. And do pay attention to all the technical elements. Fix whatever you can. We never expect to fix 100% of the warnings and issues that we find on a website, and that's the nature of things. Perhaps if you fix this one thing, you're going to break something else because you have an old CMS system, whatever that is. So, but try and fix as many things as you possibly can. When you fix things, ensure that you incorporate all schema markups, because that's what's going to give you a really good chance of featuring in rich results in Google. Ensure that you have the right types of images. Ensure that you add titles to images as well. Videos will play a big part. Add transcript to your videos when you publish those videos. Add a lot of information on your website. So follow all technical best practices. Content-wise, focus on quality. It's not about volume. It hasn't been about volume in a very, very long time. You need to produce content based on everything that you do. If you're selling a product, a solution, do your research, see what competitors are doing, produce content that is in line with what individuals are searching for online, and not just closely related terms. Go a little bit beyond that. So directly related, closely related, work on lots of content pillars, anything related to your industry, do that. FAQs, speak with your sales team, do research online, sign up to newsletters to understand what real individuals are searching for, and then work around your content calendar around that. You need to incorporate all these elements to your content strategy as well. Definitely use AI and tools to help you do your work faster and better, but never rely solely on AI. You need a human element there. You absolutely need to make things as human as possible, but do rely on AI to do things faster. And with that in mind, I think the big lesson here is there's no magic button, there's no silver bullet. You absolutely need to follow best practices. Go back to the basics if needed. There's no harm in doing that. We do that every 6 months with some of our clients. Go back a few steps back, zoom out, do an analysis of everything on the website, fix the basics first, and then you start developing things further after that.